So, fun one, let's talk foundation, because it's something that a lot of women wear and a lot get wrong. And for years, I got wrong as well, and still have the occasional slip up. Women wear foundation for all different reasons. Personally, I use it to even out my complexion. I've got all this pigmentation here. I get dark circles like a lot of women do. I get redness, and putting on foundation helps to even that out. Now, when I was younger, I thought that you put your foundation on your hand here and that's how you colour match, and totally wrong. So I'm going to show you a couple. You can have a look here. I've got that, it looks quite pale. I've got another one that's a bit darker, and on my hand, the darker one seems to blend in probably the best. Now, if you have a look here, I've blended, or I've put some colours here, and I'm waiting for them to dry to see which one, matches the best. One of the first things that you need to know about your skin when you're looking at a foundation is what your undertones are. Now, all of this stuff, this is surface tones. Undertones are what is underneath and what's going to, a foundation's going to match to my skin. Have a look at your veins there. Now you can see mine are, I've got blue and I've got green. So I'm actually a bit of both, which means I'm neutral. If your veins are green, you're a warm undertone. If you're purple or blue, you're a cool undertone. What you'll find is a lot of foundations will have a C or a W, meaning cool or warm, but then they have other things as well. This one in particular has got an N for neutral. For me personally, I need to look at neutral because I'm a bit of both. Now, when you're looking for a foundation, you don't ever try and colour match to your face. What you want to look at is your skin as a whole. So you want to look at your hand, you want to look at your neck, your chest, because you want something that's going to blend in with all of that. And the best place to colour match is here at the back of your jaw and onto your neck. If you ever try and colour match to the surface tones here, you'll find that your makeup's too dark. Now I'll show you an example. This is a foundation I got quite a while ago, and whilst it looks great with my surface colours, when I actually put this all over my face, and you can use brushes, you can use makeup sponges, but it's actually really easy just to use your hands. And if you sort of start in this area and work your way out, you'll get really good coverage. And you can see straight away that my skin's nice and smooth, but what you'll notice when I finish with this one is it's actually a bit too dark. So once I get my foundation, well, it's actually not too bad at the moment. In summer, summer my skin's a bit darker. My neck and chest are a bit darker, so it blends in quite nicely. But in winter, this one's way too dark, and what happens is I get this orange face and it doesn't blend. So actually, total lie, this one looks okay at the moment. And you can see it's okay with my neck, my chest. So that one is that one. So down here, it's a little bit dark, but on my face and my neck, it's actually blending quite well. I'm going to take it off and show you another one. These are awesome if you're looking for a makeup cloth. All of the excess is coming off. Now you'll see on my hand here, I've got the one that I would have matched with my face, and I've got one here that seems a bit too pale. We're going to try it out. Before you put on a foundation though, you need to make sure that your skin is hydrated, and you need to make sure you're moisturized. I've learnt this from a makeup artist. Now another thing I'm a real advocate of is a primer. Now, unfortunately, I've got big pores, I've got discoloration, but skin is skin, and when you put makeup on, your makeup is going to sit on your skin, so you're always going to have texture. Primer is awesome though, because it just helps to smooth out some of that texture. You're still going to see texture. We don't have airbrush machinery in our bathroom, so I'm putting on foundation with either my hands or brushes. And what I'm going to do here is just use some primer, which is just the mineral based primer we have. I've just put a bit on my hand. I don't know if you can see it here. And I'm just patting it into my pores and into the areas that have a lot of texture. And then I'm going to put my foundation on over that. You don't need a lot, like I've only just got a little squirt out of the tube. And I've just put that on there. I've chosen the blur effect. Being over 40 with older skin, I'm trying to cut down the look of my wrinkles. And most of the time when I take a photo and I've got this on, I get asked what filters I'm using because it looks amazing. So I'm just going to start in the center here. Now, putting this on, you would think, wow, it's way too pale. She's going to look ridiculous. However, when you look at overall, I'm not a really tanned person, and I'm using a neutral tone foundation, and you'll see that this blends really well into my jawline and my neck. So we're not matching our foundation to the surface color, we're matching it to the undertones. So let's put some on. I've put way too much on here. Now, if you start in the center and you work your way out, you'll get the best coverage. So you can either use a little sponge or you can use your fingers. I actually love using this Morphe brush because it just helps me get my foundation on really smoothly, and it's really good to help blend it in. If you have a look, yes, it looks pale up here, but overall my foundation's blended into my neck and it's blended into my chest, and I'll show you how we can correct this. And so that's blended in beautifully. If you find that it seems a bit pale, you can smooth that out with a bit of bronzer. I like to use translucent powder, and I can't seem to find it at the moment, but that's okay. So I would set that with a translucent powder, and I've just discovered our bronzer and our highlighter palettes rather, and I'll show you a little trick here. So I like this brush. These are just Real Techniques brushes, and I got these at Chemist Warehouse. But like, I'm just going to put a little bit of bronzer on here, and whilst you would think that a bronzer brush should be a lot bigger than this, I'm just going to put a little bit on my forehead, and we're going to do like a shape of a 3. But what happens here is, where my forehead was darker, I'm just going to contour a little bit. And so that's going to blend my foundation into my forehead a bit and just give some, I was going to say texture, but it's not the right word. And you can see there, it's just added a bit of depth into my forehead, and that's just by adding that bronzer in. And I've put it underneath my cheekbone here, not on top. So that's how you would add a bit of the bronzer in. Now, another spot that you can put it, and you see people doing contouring, is they put it down the nose area, and you can really slim your nose out just with a little bit of bronzer. Sorry, I'm looking up here because I can see myself, but my camera is right here. But when I look there, I can't actually see myself. And so what you're doing is you're putting a bit of bronzer on, which is a deeper colour, and it should help those areas go backwards, and anything that you put a highlighter on makes them jump forwards. So with this palette, I'm going to use this pinky creamy colour up here, and I'm just going to put a bit of highlight here. Yep, so that's smoothed out my nose a little bit, and then I would put a bit of highlight above my eyebrow. Once I've done my eyebrows, I put some here as well because it just lifts the eyes up, and then I would put it here along the top of my cheekbone once I've put my blusher on. But yeah, really good way of helping your foundation blend in better is to use bronzer and highlighter. So even if your foundation seems a little bit pale in some areas, you can really smooth it out by deepening and lightening some parts of it. Now, another thing you can do, I'm really cautious of doing this now because I'm over 40, is putting concealer under my eyes. So you just got to be really careful because the more product you put on here, the more chance you've got of it being cakey. But concealer is a really good way of hiding your under eye bags and the discoloration, and it's also really good as a base for your eye makeup. So I'm just patting here. Most times they say use your ring finger, and that's because there's a least amount of pressure on your ring finger, and you can't drag the skin there. And we're just patting, we're not dragging, because we don't want to create any extra any extra lines under here. Or if you don't want to use your finger, you can actually use a brush. So I'll show you the brush. So this is just a foundation or a concealer brush, and you can blend that. And you can see straight away how much that lifts that under eye area. But you don't want to be heavy-handed with it, because that's what can give you that creasy, cakey look. And as you get older, you don't want to draw attention to under eye lines that you've got here. Another trick that I've got is I love these misters, and they add a little bit of extra moisture. Once I've done my foundation and powder, I just give a bit of a spray, and it just helps to have your foundation mesh with the skin rather than sit on it, and then let that dry, and then you'll find that you don't have as much cakiness or lines because you've helped to sort of meld your makeup with your skin a little bit more. So that's my tips with foundation. I've actually got the light nude, which I wouldn't have picked. At the time I ordered this, there weren't many to choose from. They're all back in stock now. But I thought that was a bit pale for me. But when you have a look, that's not really too pale at all. Once I put some eye makeup and some blush and eyebrows on, you can see that that blends really nicely with my neck and my chest. On my hand though, it looks way too pale. And when I put it just here, it was way too pale as well. So it just goes to show you, you need to know what your undertones are, and you need to look at this as a whole area. Don't colour match your foundation to your chin or your darker areas. You want to colour match your foundation to the whole picture, and then you're going to get that really good match where your face isn't like an Oompa Loompa and cut off from the rest of your body.